Wow, it's been really extraordinary. I think this is perhaps my eighth or ninth can, and I think I can honestly say this has been the most productive, the most successful, and the most like meeting with old friends and celebrating life. Sometimes can feel a little bit like just work constantly, but I've had a good few opportunities to just enjoy the fact that we're here on the south of France. When I was a child, at 11, my mother's boyfriend said, "I've been thinking about you, and you won't want to work in an office, and you don't like being told what to do, so I think you'd probably better be a film director." And I didn't think of it again until I was 13 and I had a careers interview. And I thought it was ridiculous that somebody at 13 would be expected to have any idea about a career. And I remembered the conversation. So I went into the interview and I said, she said, "What do you want to do for a living? Have you thought about it?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be a film director." And the lady believed me. And after that, I took all of my courses, all of my choices through my education to direct films. It was a long journey. It was about 7 years of higher level education and film schools. Well, originally it was a stage play written by my father. He was a playwright and a poet, and he had a whole series of different plays and novels that he'd written. And he agreed to create a screen adaptation of JOLIE'S Garden. Actually, originally it was called The Garden. And he passed away about 7 or 8 years ago without having finished the screen adaptation. So about 2 years ago I finished it, and now we're moving into production. JOLIE'S Garden is about a girl called Jolie who is 18, and she has lived in an underground garden her entire life. And there are two things that Jolie doesn't know. The first is that the whole garden is artificial. So the flowers are made of cloth, the grass is made of plastic, there's a sun, but it's an infrared and UV heater with a pull cord switch. And she has no idea that it's artificial because it's all she's ever known, it's her entire universe. So there's an obvious Plato's Cave allegory. And the second thing Jolie doesn't know is that she's blind, because no one's ever told her that people can see. So her parents visit and pretend to be blind, and she has a nurse who lives with her, and her nurse pretends to be blind, and she's very happy and much loved, but very bored, and she has no idea she's a prisoner. So the story of how she came to be a prisoner in the garden and what happens to her is really told through the eyes of a young man called Pierce, who stumbles into the garden and also becomes a prisoner. It's a psychological thriller. Well, in terms of production, we're pretty much lined up. We're ready to go. We have a studio set. We've got most of the key crew lined up. Scripts ready. We have a line producer. We have original music composition to be produced by a fantastic composer called Patrick Cannell. A friend of mine with 7 Emmy Awards for sound design is producing the mix. A wonderful director of photography, Razaka Firmager. We're pretty much lined up and ready to go. And we came to Cannes looking to raise a piece of the finance to be ready to move into production. And it's just been phenomenal. The project is extraordinary. The production approach we're taking is quite unusual. And it's been amazing. We've now got, well, I don't want to say too many, because it's never too many, but a lot of people, a lot of private investors, a lot of companies, a lot of organizations with a slate of productions or finance organizations very keen to participate in the production. And I think a key reason for that positive response is, well, there's two. Partly it's a wonderful story, it's a fantastic project, and partly just because we've got a reasonable budget and we're producing the film in 3 different ways. So we've got distribution clearly in mind. We're going to produce the film in 2D. We're going to shoot with a pair of cameras at the same time, shooting 4K 16-bit RAW, so very high quality for theaters. Then we're going to put those cameras away and we're going to shoot 360 media for VR headsets. Now there's a very important distinction between 360 video and VR. The main difference is that in 360 video you can turn your head in any direction. You still need a VR headset to do it. But with VR production or VR video, you can navigate the environment. You can move around in 3-dimensional space and choose where you're looking from. And there are very few VR filming methods available. They're out there, but what we're aiming for is 360 video, although We're speaking to Microsoft about a possible collaboration. We'll see if that comes about. It's a long, slow process to prepare that. So we're shooting 2D, we're shooting 360, and then we're going to put the cameras away completely, and we're going to invite small audiences into the garden with the cast to experience the story as immersive theatre. In terms of distribution, we're going to end up with two versions, the 2D version and the 360 version. They're filmed on different days and there'll be different cuts. And my feeling, of course we can't know, it's very early days for 360 video, but my feeling is that people who see the 2D version will be curious to experience the 360 version and vice versa. We have a lot of industry sponsors because of my work as a futurist and as a technologist, a media technologist, and that's wonderful. And that helps because we get a great deal of advice about workflow. But yeah, we're pretty much ready to roll. For the casting, you know, it's very easy to advertise a project and get actors. And you know, we initially listed the project on a website, Casting Call Pro. And I think within 48 hours we had over 2,000 applications for 3 roles. We've got a fantastic actress playing the girl, Jolie, a lady called Andrea Sweeney. I had quite a few young ladies come in for this role. It's a fantastic opportunity, and none of them really had the presence that Andrea had. When she slips into the role, she's immediately right here now. Just graduated from Emerson, which is a very highly regarded college in the US, and she's coming over to shoot the film. So actually she's been at the festival promoting the project with me, and she'll be coming over to London, I think for the second time for her, to produce the film. You know, in many ways Jolie is the embodiment of the garden. She's the spirit of the garden, and but the young man who comes in, he's like a knight who comes in, a grail knight searching for truth. And it was a very, very difficult role to cast because the character has to actually go through 3 phases. And when the young man first comes into the garden, he's trying to play along with things and see what's going on while he looks for an escape route. But later we realize he's actually a very genuine, very kind person who's setting out to save Jolie and get her out of the garden. And I won't reveal too much, but he goes through a 3rd phase, which is a very powerful part of the story. And I was worried that I would never find somebody that could play those 3 stages of development for the character with real authenticity. But I met this young man, Matt Torrance. He was playing I was visiting Boston in the US, and he was playing the lawyer from Chicago. And it was just incredible. You get that moment. Sometimes as a director, you get these moments where you see an actor and you think, my God, that's the person. I had that experience with Gemma Arterton, seeing her in a Q&A for Made in Dagenham, and I'm looking for the female lead for another feature film project that I've been working on for many years in development. And I was just stunned to see there is my character. There she is. As long as she doesn't act and she just plays herself, then it's perfect. It was kind of like that with Matt Torrance. He's an amazing actor. And for the father of the girl, we've got a character called Climb, who created the garden for Jolie and visits and looks after her. Again, it's a very difficult role because you need somebody that you could believe would be mad enough to create this environment and set things up in the way that he did. I came across an actor called Aidan Brady, who's a very famous model. He's a GQ model. He does a lot of magazine work. And again, he just blew me away in the casting call. He has an incredible presence, a real warmth to him, but a great intensity. And we ran through an exercise where I wanted to see how he would deal with restraining his behavior. So I asked him, I gave him a line. The line is, go and stand in the corner. And I said, you've got to make me stand in the corner. You're not allowed to stand up, you're not allowed to shout, and you're not allowed to hit me. And so go. And we filmed it, and it's absolutely amazing. You know, by the 5th go of saying, go and stand in the corner, he had so much built up rage and intensity about not being able to shout, not being able to use those usual devolved signals that we use, physical violence, shouting and so on. He just had this wonderful presence. And we have another couple of cast in mind for the remaining 2 roles who are wonderful. But we're also looking at speaking to some agents with some international names. We think that maybe Lily James or maybe even Gemma Arterton might be good for one of the roles. And that's partly because it's wonderful to work with those incredibly talented actors, but also obviously for an independent film, the more recognition you can get for the project, the easier it is to distribute, the more successful the film will be internationally. So we're speaking to agents about that right now. Well, we're filming in London, and we're filming at a studio in North Acton. It's a place called Filmscape Media. They've been very helpful to us. It's a 2,600 square feet studio that will be dressing as the underground garden. So we're working on designs now to create what will be a very beautiful but slightly strange environment. Everything's very textured, it's cloth, it's carved wood, it's glass, and we're developing the designs right now to fit into that space. At the moment, of course, it's an above ground studio with a lighting rig. In fact, the lighting rig is going to be a fixed lighting rig, and that's part of the story. In fact, we need the lighting rig in shot to explain why the lights are there. So it's very convenient for production. Yes, we're going to dress it so that it looks like it's under a country mansion. If we get the finance in the bank in time, we'll be shooting in July in a couple of months. We're ready to rock with those dates, and it's looking like we will make it. After that, it's difficult to judge how long the post-production will take. We're estimating to have the music composition ready in time to go straight into post. And I should think that we'll be looking at approximately 3 months before we're ready to start reaching out to festivals. A couple of distributors are already interested in the project, and that's crucial if you're raising finance for a film, because without distribution you really have nothing. So we'll start to show some cuts maybe at the end of August, September time. I'm expecting to be speaking at the IBC show in Amsterdam, and I'd like to have some footage to show then. But I would estimate that October we'd be expecting to have something like a finished cut. And we're hoping to either premiere in Sundance or Toronto.